Didn't stop it. All right, good afternoon, everyone. It's 11:06. Per our posting, we need to wait a few minutes, but yeah, it's a few minutes late still. So we are here at 11:06, September 1st, for a special meeting of the Board of County Commissioners to consider a couple of contracts, and then we will go into a work session on some preliminary budget discussions and topics. At that point, we may change locations, but at this point, we don't have a lot of public in the room and a crowded BOCC room here. So if we are to change locations over to City Hall, we will post a note on the door indicating that we have moved. It does not look like that may happen at this point. All right, so on the website for our planner, we had the contracts to consider with East Tex Tower and Newmont Mining Easement. We've got legal here. Commissioner Marcella, do you want to go into the East Tex Tower?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So East Tex Tower is with the contractor that we had selected for the tower construction, the DTR tower construction at the EOC location. So Josh had taken that out to RFP before he left to be the airport manager. And since he has transitioned out of his role at the EOC, I have kind of assumed that contract. So Chris and I have been working with a contractor to nail down some of the specifics in the contract and make sure that it matches the RFP and the bid documents that they had submitted to us. And so we finally got that secured last week. And so before prices increase again, we wanted to bring this for an approval before the board. So Chris and I have gone through the contract. We've gone through it with the contractor. And then the next step with this is to engage potentially some project management to oversee the vertical construction of the tower, since I don't believe anybody here has the capacity to oversee that vertical construction.
Yeah.
So, so anyway, this is just the contract with East Tex Tower. They'll begin the site and the prep work once this is adopted by the board.
Okay.
And I'll just what you sent is their sign. They signed off on it, so we're not.
I see that.
So.
Great.
Yeah. So we met with them last week to go through that. They were comfortable to sign it and send it to us with our revisions that we had sent back to them.
Great. And not necessarily a specific question on the contract. Last we had this conversation, there was an increase, as you kind of alluded to, in some of the costs just associated with the climate of construction and whatnot, I think. But yeah,
The cost of steel.
but is that
300% up. So that was
cost that we had approved? Is that still like within the range, do we think, or
Yeah, it should still be within the range of the original bid and scope. And so signing the contract will secure the pricing
okay?
for what we have
for the
now. The
materials.
other thing too is because of the exorbitant increase, one of the things that we have to do is look at a Korean shelter
Right.
to refurbish.
Right.
And we've been assured that it's like new and
Yeah.
It will come with a warranty. Yeah.
yeah. So
Great.
that way that saved us about
Yeah.
26
More. Yeah.
So
Great.
that kind of helped offset materials increase costs.
Great.
Yeah.
And then one of the last, Josh was not certain about utilities and electric. Has that been resolved?
So we talked with the contractor last week about the site and the utilities, but we need to get the contract
Before they
with them
continue
before
to,
they can continue to work towards
Okay.
the utilities on the site.
got it.
And so that'll be one of the first things that we do with them in project management is connect them with Xcel Energy. I've reached out to our team with Xcel Energy, Kelly Flanagan,
Okay. Nice.
to get them approved their contract.
Perfect.
Other thing that I will offer is late yesterday, I received an email from Christian McCormick, the city's attorney, finally providing their comments on the tower MOU, I guess, agreement for that. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but just so that's percolating too, and if you have that review, I'll circle back around with y'all to be able to have that arrangement.
Great. Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Fiedler, any questions?
None for me. Thanks for doing all that.
Yeah.
hunting
Yeah.
down details.
Yeah, no problem. Also just wanted to put in there too, that Chris and I did meet with Kaylee Ham, our Director of Emergency Management, Sheriff Reyes, and our, I guess you would call them our contacts or our representatives at the state, to ensure that our materials with them for the grant that we had submitted are still available, so that we don't have to assume of the dish
Mhm.
that goes on the tower. And so they assured us that they will be able to order and secure the materials that go on the tower for that was awarded in the state grant. So by the time the vertical construction of the tower is completed in the spring of 2022, the materials should be here, and then the state will be able to install them once construction is finished. But they assured us that there was no way that they could order and install materials before the end of 2021. So they're seeing a delay on their end as well, but we just wanted to make sure that with our timing being pushed back, that didn't jeopardize our grant award, and it does not.
All right. I'll entertain a motion. Doesn't sound like there's any objection for the approval of the East Tex Tower construction contract with Lake County government.
So moved.
All right, any further discussion?
Well, thank
None
you.
for me.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I
Oh.
Very good. Okay, and on to Newmont easement.
Yeah, so we had put this on our meeting, our regular meeting last week, right? At the last one in August,
16th?
I think. Jeff
Yeah.
remembered. And so we were waiting on some confirmation from the insurance company, and it sounded like you got confirmation from the insurance company.
Yeah, I can give a background
I did not
clarification.
have an update as
Oh.
of 29 minutes ago.
Okay.
So you go ahead and give your
Okay.
update now.
Yeah. So I think the big outstanding issue was that Newmont wanted, as part of the contract for the county to accept the easement, they wanted complete indemnification of liability and legal fees surrounding any of that. And at the same time, they wanted to retain, unfettered access to the easement, which raised a real liability issue that, in a worst case scenario, some piece of equipment or whatever from Newmont that we had no control over, nor Cloud City Wheelers had control over, could incur some liability and we'd be on the hook. So we did digging with CTSI, and I think we have clear written answers from CTSI that we are covered by CTSI if the recreational use statute limits apply to whatever liability arose. We certainly are covered because those are capped well below $1 million. Even if something happened that was not covered by that recreational use, I think the language is willful and malicious or something.
Well, it's essentially an intentional act.
To be quite egregious, we have coverage under our liability with CTSI with a limit of 10 million, and we would still have, depending on how things played out legally, Cloud City Wheelers itself holds liability protection up to, I believe, 2 million. So I think the question on the table for us is whether that 10 million liability limit, there is some, in some situation, if something occurred that incurred liability above 10 million, we are on the hook for that. Personally, I think that's a pretty high limit. So I think the question for us to accept the contract with Newmont is, is the public benefit worth that slight residual risk above the 10 million liability cap? And then starting one other thing, I think one maybe no longer outstanding issue is whether Newmont was going to give us any notification of accessing the easement, because previously they had not not agreed to give us any notification, and that notification would give us a chance to, put a warning sign up or close the trail,
Right.
which would there being a liability.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
correct.
so,
Was that your
So-
29-minute ago update?
yeah. So, Sterling and Coffee, Willis and I have been going around with dealing today about the request to add the marked in, which I put in the confidential habit that they would give us at least 24 hours notice before they were to access the use. And their initial knee-jerk reaction was no, we're not going to do that. We should have the same right to access as the public does without notice. Well, the public's not likely to create,
Bring a
hazards that
bulldozer.
result in- Yeah, so where we are now is he's come back with a compromise of wanting to move the notice text to a new sentence that says something to the effect of Resurrection intends to operate mechanized equipment within the easement area. They will get notice. I'd like to expand that, though, not just operate, but if they intend to do site work within the easement area, because one thing Mr. Fiedler and I talked about was that, they could get in there, do site work, move stuff around and nobody know, and then all of a sudden somebody comes through on their mountain bike and there's a pit or something, the
Mhm.
equipment might not be there. So, that's the only thing I will go back to them on, but I think we're like 99.9% there. If we can get that, and the insurance company has recommended that we have that type of notification. I think that's totally reasonable, just because if they are, and the fact that, he's saying, we might bring equipment on there, we need to let people know.
Oh, yeah.
And along that line, the one thing I want to point out with Mr. Fiedler, his comments about the recreational use statute, there are some exceptions to that. And one of them has to do with creation of an attractive nuisance, which pertains to something that would attract kids under the age of 14 to come on and use the easement. And if they end up getting hurt, then the cap doesn't apply. And so that's just something, that's why I think we really do need to have this notice provision in there in some way, shape, and form. And if he's saying that they'll at least agree to a modified version of that, I think it's better than not.
Okay.
Yeah. So can you read that language again? If they were gonna
Well, when he's
operate?
come back, so essentially what we had asked for, one second here, what we had asked for, was that essentially, that, where it says Resurrection reserves right to enter, use, access across the easement area and permit others to enter, use, access across the easement area for any purpose. I had added at the end of that, upon giving the county at least 24 hours advance notice so the county can take appropriate action, post signage and close the trucks to public during Resurrection's use. They objected to that and came back to a new sentence, essentially Resurrection intends to operate mechanized equipment within the easement area to give us the notice. And so again, I think we could probably work with that, but I wanted to include any site work and stuff that they're doing, not just that they're going to bring heavy equipment on there or whatever.
Well, and I don't, and forgive me, guys, I did play phone tag with Melanie Gramberg before I left on leave too, to ask her about the covenants.
Yeah.
Like, do we know, did any, because that might, my thought is just that the covenants of the OU operable unit would restrict like a level, like they're not, I'm making a presumption that they would not go in and like start mining this area again because they have to operate per those covenants. So
Of the OU.
of the OU. So I'm thinking that it would be restricted
Okay.
to a certain amount of activity,
Oh, that makes sense.
which gives us
Okay.
some, like they're not going to do
Yeah.
exploration and they're not going
Yeah.
to do, they've already remediated this area. And so whatever they would do would be, I don't know, would be in my mind, likely less disturbing
Well,
and
yeah, potentially.
maintaining
And-
that.
and I haven't walked this road, I don't know, it goes through the property. If they need to like cut in and access between certain sites or something, that's what I would be concerned about. It's
Yeah.
not- I don't think they have any minor or whatever, but it's going to be, oh, we need to put in this, road base, path or area where we can move equipment between the sites or something like
Right.
that. That would be.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay.
So I think it's definitely, it's a lot better than where we were. Unfortunately, they didn't accept any of our other substantive things. So I'll be honest with you, there is exposure for the county to this in any way, shape, or form. And the fact that it's not just Resurrection, they're working, they have any contractors out there, anything that happens on that easement area after this is signed, the county's essentially responsible for, responsible to indemnify them. So that's, there is exposure there.
I mean, I think it was important. It's important to get this place too with Newmont, and perhaps, well, you know, as we also consider kind of formalizing or looking back on mineral belt trail alignment and
Yeah,
all of those
you told me
things,
that.
because the mineral belt trail goes through a significant portion of Newmont property up California Gulch, and I don't think there are any current agreements regarding that activity. So it's nice to,
because when we were looking at the sanitation property, there's only one sheet of paper that says like, do you agree to let us
construct.
through your property? And that's it. It's like a one pager and that's it, really. It's not an
Shouldn't
actual,
do any of this.
no, there's not an actual agreement.
Well, that's both good and that's good. If they're gonna turn around and say, okay, we would need the same quality of agreement for, you know, that. So that you're assuming a lot of liability risks that you don't currently have. I don't know if we wanna go that.
I don't know that that's necessary to address that, but I think, you know, again, I thank you, first of all, for taking that on over the last several weeks. And, you know, I think there could be a lot of potential in, again, just having promotable legal systems and diversifying recreation use and rec tourism in the county. This, I hope, can set a good example of creating opportunity for that in other areas that might not have a current use, or where we might have these conversations of, you know, highest and best uses as we talk about county land and a rec master planning of, you know, a vision of what we kind of what we hope our recreation identity to be. But
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think there's a lot of, you know, informal recreational use by residents that's highly valued that we need to get established properly. And then, I mean, just this morning, we heard there's new businesses doing guided tours on the east side. You know, there's a real, you know, business potential there too for the county. So getting that established on a proper legal
for sure.
footing, I think is important.
yeah, designating trails and like directing use is really important, not just for people, but for the land as well, and the impact. So to get some control over that and yeah, have some mechanism in which to do it is great.
So given just the lingering last little bit on the notification, do we want to wait until we have that language settled before actually voting, or do
I think we're there. If
Okay.
you're going to improve subject to finalizing to legal, I think we'll be
Okay.
there with it.
Okay.
And so, you know, I think this is the only compromise they've offered so far. So I would expect, even if it's just what they offered,
Because it was signage or something. I'm sorry.
well, that's what, that we would have. the
We just need-
opportunity to
yeah.
do this in order to give the opportunity to post that it's
Right.
closed. for
Of
them to
course.
use it.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's what we're asking.
Yeah. I
Which
imagine.
then putting the obligation on them, except for just to tell us. at
Yeah.
least that they
Right, a
report
phone
we
call.
plan to go across and do this.
Yeah, even if it's an emergent situation, we could probably do something within a
Yeah.
matter of hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe what I'll do to offer both things, I'll add some language today, I mean, the event, emergent circumstances as soon as practical,
Yeah,
so that way they,
yeah,
you know, we're acknowledging that.
yeah, that might make them happier.
Mhm.
Okay. Cool.
Great. Well, I'd be in favor of approving that, and also, you know, as we are kind of exploring that and this kind of new opportunity, I mean, it's definitely something to keep an eye on and monitor the progress of the agreement and the partnerships that are involved here. Happy to entertain a motion.
All right, sure.
I mean, we can,
Or,
more discussion or whatever, here's,
No, it's okay. I just need the official
yeah, I don't know.
title. of the-
getting to the top of the,
So I will make a motion that we approve the revocable recreational trail easement agreement with Newmont Mining. I don't know how to say,
you want to reword it, or are you discuss, are you? adding
or
discussion?
just add the
Pending
pending final legal
Okay,
review with the emergency access.
Second?
okay. Any further discussion?
None for me,
I don't
thanks.
think so. We covered it.
Yeah.
So I'm ready to vote.
All right.
Yeah.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and that concludes the topics, the 2 agenda items and the contracts for consideration for our special meeting. Do we have anything else to cover before I adjourn our special meeting?
No, I don't think so.
Very good. Then at 11:28, we will adjourn and move into our work session.